I'm joined now from Brussels by Margot Wallström, Vice President of the European Commission. Your boss, José Manuel Barroso, said the treaty isn't dead, the treaty is alive. Can you explain to voters what they would have to do to kill it?
I think, first of all, if we are serious about democracy, I think we have to understand why the Irish people voted no. That must be sort of the first stage, and this is what the Irish and what we will contribute to do until the heads of state and governments meet.
Presumably they voted no because they don't like the treaty, but your boss is saying it will go on. I'm just asking you, what would they have to do not to have it?
You're not even pretending anymore. You're pushing ahead with all the symbols of statehood and trying at the same time to lie and cheat with the Irish by giving them a series of guarantees that are not worth the paper that they are written on. Well, I can tell you that many of us in this Europe of Freedom and Democracy group will do all we can to help the no side in that Irish referendum. The future of European democracy rests very heavily on Irish shoulders. You fought, Mr. President, against the Soviet Union. You fought for democracy. You fought for national self-determination. If you continue to ignore the democratic voice of countries like France, the Netherlands and Ireland, then you will turn the European Union back into that very union that you fought so hard against.
The fundamental problem here is that many voters throughout Europe think that the EU is an undemocratic imposition, and they don't object to membership of the EU, they just object to the way it's being run and things are imposed on them. And when voters say no, you say we're going to go on and trying to find a way to make you say yes.
No.
And yet more status quo. You supported the idea of shooing in Mr. Barroso without there being any sort of proper contest. But it's on the Lisbon Treaty that I was most interested. You ratified the treaty through your own parliamentary chambers without, of course, the thought of giving the people in your own country a referendum to express their opinion. But it's when it comes to Ireland that I really get interested, because you said that you wanted there to be a credible policy for Ireland with their second referendum. And so you produced these guarantees, and here they are. Guarantees on the right to life, on taxation, on security and defence. This document has no legal force whatsoever. It is not worth the paper that it's written on. You are the author of a disgraceful attempt to con the Irish into voting for this Lisbon Treaty in their forthcoming referendum. Of course, you've been supported by Mr. Barroso on that. He doesn't ever respect the result of democratic referendums, whether they're in France, the Netherlands or Ireland. He says we must ignore them, we must continue. It's all about power. It's all about him and the EU institutions getting more power at the expense of the member states. I hope the Irish tell you all where to go in the second referendum on October the 2nd, and they just might. European parliamentarians and leaders are not listening to the peoples of Europe, at which 200 of you got up and walked out of the room.
Just to go back to the point, for the voters, the only voters who've had a say on this treaty, the only ones, the Irish voters, very intelligent, very well-informed people, quite a big turnout, they said no, and yet the process still goes on. So therefore, that is absolutely what people mean by the democratic deficit.
Hvad er så formålet med krigene, terrorpakkerne og indskrænkelser af helt grundlæggende menneskerettigheder, som er blevet implementeret globalt? Folket ville ikke have krig, og politikerne burde arbejde for folket. Hvem kontrollerer politikerne? Hvem ønsker krig og hvorfor? Hvem styrer i virkeligheden verden, og hvad er deres dagsorden?
You have to be a finance oligarch. Remember, this is not a society ruled by generals, not by priests, not by bureaucrats, not by demagogues, none of those, but by bankers.
Anders Fogh bliver belønnet for sine forbrydelser mod menneskeheden med en NATO-toppost. Og der er store chancer for, at krigsforbryderen Tony Blair bliver EU's præsident. Hvad er formålet med EU som politisk superstat?
In 1954, the elite of the planet met in secret. at the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, Holland. The Bilderberg Group would later admit that their mission was the formation of the EU. Once the EU was established, under the guise of trade deals, a North American Union and Asian Union would be formed. The three interlocking superstates formed the core of the global government, while the United Nations would serve as a world regulatory and enforcement body over the Third World subregions. The Bilderberg Group consists of the heads of all of the managing roundtable groups that steer individual countries. Picture the elite power structure of the world as a giant pyramid, with only the elite of the elite at the tip top of the capstone. The group has been so secretive that until the mid-1980s, the controlled corporate media denied its existence. Into the late 1990s, coverage only consisted of rare one-line mentions. With the rise of the alternative media, their stranglehold on information has begun to slip.
On the outskirts of the national capital today, black limousines with darkened windows converged on a hotel where private security guards imposed ironclad control. The limos carried royalty, political power brokers, and industrial titans to a secret meeting that will last all weekend. It's known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
I learned an awful lot from Mr. Rockefeller. And one of the things that we used to talk about was the ultimate plan of the banking industry, what they wanted to accomplish. And the goals of the banking industry, not just the Federal Reserve System, but the private banks in Germany and England, all over Italy, all over the world, they all work together. They're all central banks, and they're all part of the Communist Manifesto. You know, central banking is one of the major planks of the Communist Manifesto. We talk about America being a capitalistic country, but yet at the same time we have a central bank that plans everything for us, right? And the graduated income tax is another plank of the Communist Manifesto, right? So right there you have two major planks of the Communist Manifesto that have been brought in because of the Federal Reserve System, okay? So the ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is given me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything.
you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one-world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people. And you become a slave. You become a serf to these people. That's their goal. That's their intentions.